The Joker is arguably the greatest comic book villain in history. We can identify him at a glance. We all know his laugh the second we hear it, and we're all aware of the eternal game he plays with Batman. But if you look closely at his history across the decades, it's clear that the Joker's personality is quite flexible. He can be anything from a cold, sadistic murderer to a buffoonish figure of fun. And when Batman Caped Crusader adapted the Joker, their take was initially shrouded in mystery. The first season ended with Joker setting up a lab and testing his Joker toxin on multiple victims until he got the formula just right. The lower half of his face was covered in shadow, and it led viewers to speculate how they might make their version distinct from what came before. Perhaps his face would be all mangled up. Maybe he'd have a bigger grin than ever before. But what they actually decided to do was completely remove his smile. Despite his clownish appearance, this Joker is deadly serious, and to some that may sound revolutionary, but it's actually a nod towards Joker's earliest comic book stories. The Joker first appeared in 1940's Batman #1. Inspired by Conrad Veidt in the film The Man Who Laughs, he arrived with no origin story at all. He's just a devious theatrical villain orchestrating murders through misdirection. Sure, he would smile and was capable of laughing, but he frequently scowled and grimaced. When the regulators of the 1950s cast their gaze upon comic books, one of many in a long line of scapegoats blamed for the corruption of American youth, I might add, DC softened their characters, including the Joker. When he made the jump to television in the 1960s, adaptation stuck to that softer approach, making him an energetic, clownish prankster who just happened to commit crimes too. Other takes, like Tim Burton's 1989 film or Batman the Animated Series, gave us a cold-hearted career gangster who was mean long before the dunk in the acid and simply loved being a monster. Later shows like 2004's The Batman leaned into a frantic, wild physical threat, while Batman the Brave and the Bold brought back the bright, mischief-making Silver Age showman. Something all of these versions share in common is that they were adapted to fit their worlds. And the same is true of Caped Crusader. In the lead-up to Season 2's release, voice actor Matthew Needham talked about how the description he received about the character during his audition was humourless and European. And that's the big difference with their Joker. He smiles and laughs once. The laughter and grins come from his victims, and their deaths are horrible, uncontrollable, frantic laughter as their faces contort into hideous grins. There is a sinister irony in making the Joker humourless. In human culture, laughter is the ultimate sign of joy, relief, and connection. But here, laughter is a violent physical convulsion forced upon victims as their lungs burst and their muscles tear. By robbing himself of laughter and inflicting it as a death sentence on others, this Joker embodies the ultimate tragedy of nihilism. He cannot actually experience joy, so he turns everyone else's joy into agony. Another difference is that they opted to give him a soft German accent in a nod towards Conrad Veidt. Making him a foreigner who only recently came to Gotham changes the dynamic between him and Batman too. Traditionally, Batman had been inadvertently responsible for turning a common criminal into the Joker after he either leapt, fell, or was pushed into a vat of acid. But here, Joker's origins are a mystery. Whatever happened to him happened elsewhere, and Batman was seemingly not involved. He states that he has only been in Gotham for a few months, and shows his pragmatism by concocting this scheme. Gotham's corruption has disgusted him to his core. This dynamic taps directly into the classic DNA of film noir. Noir stories are defined by broken institutions, dirty cops, and rampant corruption. The Joker is the logical extreme of noir pessimism. He looks at a broken world and decides the only rational response is total destruction. But Batman is the opposite. He's not blind to Gotham's filth, of course. He sees exactly the same cesspit that the Joker does. The difference is that Batman refuses to let the cruelty of the world dictate his own humanity. Joker looks at the people of Gotham and sees insignificant ants making things worse for each other. Even the people like Batman who are trying to make things better, he views them as well-meaning but misguided. Where Batman had worked to get criminals like Rupert Thorne arrested and was ultimately foiled because the legal system was so corrupt, Joker decided to just straight up murder him and his teenage son Matthew. After the Riddler uses Hugo Strange's blockbuster serum to cause chaos, Joker steps in. He murders Strange and takes the blockbuster formula for himself. He then combines his Joker toxin with that blockbuster serum to bring about his dream of annihilating Gotham. And it's funny to note how his scheme resembles a mostly unpopular crossover from the early 2000s, The Last Laugh. Back when Joker erroneously believed he was dying of a brain tumor and he corrupted all of the supervillains, turning them into Jokerized versions of themselves. Here, though, he infects Gotham's authorities with his blockbuster Joker-Venom hybrid, hidden within the bodies of his other victims. It's actually quite a solid scheme. Kill the people who have been ruining Gotham with his toxin, then have it gestate inside of their corpses until they bolt upright and spray new victims. These Jokerized blockbuster officers then pass it on through bites, sort of like zombies, and the chaos ensues. These zombies aren't shambling monsters or giggling buffoons though, but instead they act out every resentment they've ever had. Bullock, demoted to a beat cop after the murder of Harvey Dent, seeks out his former partner Flash to punish him for his treachery. Commissioner Gordon stalks Barbara, and Detective Cohen really wants to crush Montoya's skull. Basically, there's a lot going on here, and things very quickly descend into complete chaos. The way his victims run around completely free of inhibitions is a stark contrast to Joker himself. He thinks of himself as a teacher, quoting poets like Yeats and waxing lyrical about he and Batman are two peas in a pod. But rather than showing Gotham how to be better like Batman does, his only pupil is Batman. He tells Batman that his morality is an anchor that is weighing him down, and he should let go of his juvenile ideas of protecting people and let him deal with Gotham. Once he accepts who he really is, or should I say what he really is, then they can work together and they will no longer have to be alone. But that is a fatal misread on the Joker's part. Batman is not alone. The whole time he'd been working with Alfred on finding an antidote for the Joker toxin, which they synthesized out of Rupert Thorne's corpse. And yeah, sure, this led to Alfred getting infected and letting off some steam, but at least they were able to verify that the cure worked. So, while you have decent people like Montoya and Barbara Gordon running around Gotham trying to help people, it's Alfred that saves the day. Batman kept Joker distracted while Alfred loaded up the Batplane with the cure and showered Gotham in it, effectively returning everyone back to normal. Joker thought he knew it all, but he was completely wrong. He even misjudges one of Batman's most basic tools, the Batarang. Yeah, sure, he dodges it with ease, but he forgets that they come back. And on its return, it knocks down some rebar rods, which not only separates him from Batman, but it impales him. And this is the point that he starts laughing. He's been completely defeated, and it delights him. Joker desperately wants to be a philosopher king. He quotes poetry and talks down to Batman like a weary professor, trying to educate a naive student, but the ending exposes his entire philosophy as a sham. For all his posturing about the true reality of the world, he gets brought down by basic physics, a returning piece of metal and a falling steel rod. His nihilism was arrogance disguised as wisdom, and his response is to laugh. So while this may technically be a defeat, more than anything it brought Joker to life, and maybe, just maybe, Batman has opened his eyes instead. And his response to this potential enlightenment is to cast himself off of the rooftop and disappears into the fumes of the antidote. Of course, the police don't find a body, much like in those classic comic books, where the villain would seemingly meet their end only to turn up fine a few issues later. If Caped Crusader comes back for a third season, I expect him to also return following this symbolic death. Now, of course, that will all depend on what happens with Warner Brothers, their current merger with Paramount, and if Amazon wants to justify the expense. At the time of writing, that remains to be seen. I will say though that I do feel like Joker was a little overhyped in the run-up to this season, although that could have just been my own internal hype meter going into overdrive. Joker appears towards the end of a good 3 or 4 episodes before he gets his own spotlight, and he does do significant things like killing some pretty major characters. But he doesn't get very much screen time. Now, I may be in the minority here, but I am not experiencing Joker fatigue in the same way that other people are. I would have liked to have seen more of him, and for more build-up towards his attack. That said, what we did get was pretty good. Joker is treated like a looming threat in the shadows, rather than a villain of the week. In an era where comic book adaptations often rely on repeating the exact same iconic beats from the comics, Caped Crusader took a gamble. Stripping away Joker's theatrical antics, the constant jokes, and the iconic laugh could have easily backfired. But by grounding him in the hard-boiled horror of 1940s pulp noir, the show reminded us why the Joker has survived for nearly a century. While he may always have a purple costume, green hair, and a catchy punchline, Joker ultimately endures because he is a psychological mirror to Batman. He shows what happens when you stare into the abyss and let it win. But what about all of you? Did this stripped-down, humourless Joker work for you, or do you miss the theatrical showman of the past? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, I'll be reading them all. As ever, special thanks to my channel members because they help to make these videos possible, and if you want to see your name on screen and get early access to all of my upcoming videos, including Friday's video about Caped Crusader's Riddler, then join the channel now. Thanks for watching everybody, see you soon.